Hello and welcome to the Dot Connector. Well, the JFK files are out. Apparently there's about 80,000 of them to get through. And people are starting to see bits and bobs in them, which they're posting. And for me, it's deja vu, really, because 30 years ago, 1995, in this book, And the Truth Shall Set You Free, I produced, well, the equivalent of the unredacted and then some JFK files on the assassination, in which I mentioned people and their involvement that are being posted from people who've seen different elements of the JFK files up to this point. And this is one posting. Newly released JFK files confirm a secret intelligence pipeline between the CIA and Israeli intelligence, personally overseen by CIA counterintelligence chief James Angleton. Angleton acted as the sole gatekeeper, ensuring that all Israeli-related intelligence was filtered through him alone. And interestingly, well, not surprisingly, if you've looked at this and researched this, the CIA wanted Israeli connections to the assassination redacted. And in this book, And the Truth Shall Set You Free, from 30 years ago, I connect Angleton and others relating to the CIA and, crucially, Israel, to the assassination in Dallas in 1963. So here's part of what I wrote 30 years ago. The global elite elements within the CIA and the global elite's wholly owned subsidiary, Mossad, are the same organization, if you go deep enough. Before, during, and after the assassination of both John and Bobby Kennedy, the key coordinator of these connections was one James Jesus Angleton, who was educated in his early years in England at Chartridge Hall House in Buckinghamshire and Malvern House in Worcestershire. He was recruited by the CIA's predecessor, the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, after leaving the Skull and Bones University of Yale. In 1947, he joined the new CIA and progressed to the highly sensitive and pivotal post of head of CIA counterintelligence. According to his biographer, Tom Mangold, his major patrons were Alan Dulles, the CIA director fired by Kennedy, and Richard Helms, who was appointed CIA director by Lyndon B. Johnson after Kennedy's assassination. And shall we say, Alan Dulles gets lots of mentions in this book and subsequent ones, because this was a seriously horrific character. Mangold says that, in effect, Angleton was given such a free rein to pursue his own agenda that there was virtually no monitoring or control of his activities. He was a law unto himself. This becomes very significant to the story when we realize that one of Angleton's key roles was the official liaison with allied foreign intelligence agencies, particularly with Mossad. He was the head of the CIA's Israel desk. More than that, he had a long and intimate ties with David Ben-Gurion, the Israeli prime minister, who despised Kennedy and saw him as a threat to the existence of Israel. Actually, he also saw him as a threat to the existence of the Israeli nuclear program that was unfolding at the time. So Kennedy's war with the CIA also threatened the existence of Angleton's job and power base, Angleton had many reasons to want Kennedy out of the way, but the most important was his connection to and control by Israel, which then, as now, controls much of the CIA operation. Wilbur Crane Eveland, a former advisor to the CIA and member of the policy planning staff at the White House and Pentagon, said, stemming from his wartime OSS liaison with Jewish resistance groups based in London, James Angleton had arranged an operational intelligence exchange agreement with Israel's Mossad, upon which the CIA relied for much of its intelligence about the Arab states. And it's also apparently in these files that Angleton had connections to Lee Harvey Oswald, who is the official assassin. And he was an amazing man, Oswald, because he developed a rifle that shot bullets from the book depository in Dallas, which did U-turns. Yes, they went past the presidential car and then came back to hit him in the front, even though Oswald was behind him. So Angleton is an absolute key to understanding how the assassination of Kennedy was orchestrated. I mentioned in the book also J. Edgar Hoover, a 33-degree Freemason and legendary director and manipulator extraordinaire of the FBI, who was involved in all of this up to his neck and in the assassinations of Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, and Malcolm X. So I say these then were the men who decided that Oswald was the lone killer. More than that, the CIA department given responsibility for dealing with the Warren Commission investigation, in quotes, into the assassination was the counterintelligence department controlled by James Jesus Angleton, the Mossad mole and a prime organizer of the assassination. The FBI Warren Commission coordinator was William Sullivan, a close friend of James Jesus Angleton. The cover-up has continued to this day, I write, with books and magazines funded by the assassins and their successors claiming that the mafia, Castro, the KGB, etc., killed Kennedy. Each one is designed to further obscure the real culprits, the Israel CIA Meir Lansky crime syndicate, a Jewish crime syndicate headed by this guy, Meir Lansky, who was bosom buddies with J. Edgar Hoover and many other people involved in the assassination. So I say that this network operating together under a central command was behind it. And I asked, do you think the media is not controlled enough to keep the truth from the public for more than 30 years, as it was then? As a former Mossad agent, Victor Ostrovsky says, the Mossad controlled the media in the United States. And he says that I had not known, however, how hypocritical that community, the Jewish community, and the media that can lie at its feet can be. I had known that it had all but taken over the film industry, being Mossad and the Israeli network, and has a strong grip on Washington. Now, through intimidation and double dealing, it obviously has taken over large proportions of the American media. To those who knew this all along and were silent, and to those who remain silent now, shame on you. And like I say, the book goes into great detail about the Kennedy assassination, but also those of people like Malcolm X and Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King. And I say this in a section about the Malcolm X assassination, The black consciousness movements had long been infiltrated by the FBI and CIA, and assassinations could be arranged from inside as well as outside of these black organizations. The FBI operation called COINTELPRO was headed by William Sullivan, the friend of the CIA Mossad mole, James Jesus Angleton. Sullivan was the liaison between the FBI and the Warren Commission, and his COINTELPRO operation relied heavily on information from the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, which of course is an offshoot of the Rothschild-created B'nai B'rith. So what has come out in these files, which are obviously not going to tell the story like I've told it in there, but it's come out, but what real difference is it going to make unless the real culprits are identified, which is the manipulation out of Israel and through the CIA, which got rid of a president that Israel believed was a problem. And we now have a situation where we have a president in the White House, in Donald Trump, who is absolutely owned by Israel and is giving them everything they want. And, you know, the reason that the targeting of people challenging Israel as students and protests by Trump on the basis of anti-Semitism, it's not just a reaction to what is happening. It's a reaction to what's planned to come, setting up the silencing of people when you know what's coming further down the line. And what's coming now is bad enough. We have had the ceasefire in Gaza ended by the Israeli government, which was more predictable than night following day. It was obvious that was going to happen. And Trump's all in support of it. And if Trump was genuine, he would be asking why all these redactions of the Israel connection are in the JFK files. And he would want to know the Israeli involvement. He doesn't, because they own him. Just like Miriam Adelson owns him, a super Zionist, after giving him $100 million for his latest election campaign. And we have this. Israel-Hamas ceasefire collapses, children among scores killed and injured after the IDF fires extensive strikes and vows to increase military force. Israel has been accused of ending the ceasefire after dozens of people, including children, were killed in a series of airstrikes on Hamas targets, so they claim, in Gaza. A senior Hamas official said Israel unilaterally overturned the ceasefire that began on January the 19th. Unverified reports from medics say hundreds of people have died as a result of the strikes. The Israeli army did not provide more details about the extensive strikes, but Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his office released a statement saying Israel will from now on act against Hamas with increasing military strength. And what's happening cannot be divorced from Miriam Adelson's donation which was in return for Trump at some point supporting the Israeli annexation of the West Bank. You cannot divorce it from Trump's desire, he says, to get all the Palestinians out of Gaza and replace them with a Mediterranean resort for the rich. And his ending of all restrictions on the US supplying weapons of all kinds to Israel. And nor can you divorce it from his almost immediate decision after coming to office this time to take off all sanctions, remove all sanctions against the so-called settlers who are stealing Palestinian land and properties in the West Bank. There is something coming down the line, and this attack on free speech in America under the guise of anti-Semitism is preparing for what is planned to come. So to humanize the consequences of these latest strikes, here are a group of people, reportedly charity workers and journalists, documenting a food distribution project for displaced families under the Israel food blockade. And shortly after this footage was taken, they were killed in an Israeli attack on northern Gaza. Now, the anti-Semitism scam is to stop legitimate challenge and investigation into not just what is happening in Israel and Gaza, but the Israel influence in countries around the world, not least the United States. And what they say is, when you are calling these people out and exposing what they're doing and exposing their agenda, they say, what you're saying is all Jewish people are doing it. No, that's not what's being said at all. But it's the smokescreen that allows you to protect yourselves from legitimate investigation under the guise of it's just anti-Semitism. And here are some Jewish people who went into Trump Tower in New York this week because they are horrified at what is being done in their name in Gaza. And this was a protest, yes, against the mass murder in Gaza, but also against the Trump regime arresting and threatening to deport Mahmoud Khalil for the crime of taking part in a protest against the mass murder in Gaza.
Well, first I'd like to say free Mahmoud Khalil. He's a political prisoner. He was abducted from his home with his 8-month pregnant wife illegally and taken to an undisclosed location. And does that sound like America? I don't know.
Yeah. What's your background? What made you concerned about this issue?
Well, I was brought up Jewish. I was brought up with a lot of things that weren't true. I had to unlearn them. I have a debt to pay.
A debt to pay? What do you mean?
I have a debt for what I grew up with and believed, and what the state of Israel has done and what they haven't done, and how they're conflating Judaism with Zionism. They come for students first, they come to universities, they try to take over universities. Just read some history. Every single fascist regime has done this. They start with the educators and the students because that's where the movement is strong.
So some background to the arrest and threatened deportation of this Palestinian activist from Columbia University. And this is the story. Palestinian activist arrest signals Columbia University collaborating with Trump. Well, collaborating under tremendous pressure, it would seem. The arrest and detention of a prominent Palestinian over the weekend from his home in New York City marks Columbia University's shift from a complicit actor to a collaborator with Donald Trump's policies, student activists have warned. For months, American universities, including Columbia, have been facing accusations of accommodating anti-Semitic pro-Hamas supporters, a slur used to describe pro-Palestinian protesters calling for an end to what has been called a genocide in Gaza, even as universities have clamped down on protesters, including suspending students and faculty who have refused to halt their demands and allowing police on campuses to conduct arrests. So the arrest and threat of potential deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, a permanent resident of the US, comes days after the New York Police Department was seen dragging students out of a sit-in at Columbia's Bernard College, where students were protesting against the expulsion of 3 students for protests and disruptions in 2024. And now we're having Columbia University expelling, suspending, and revoking degrees of 22 students. Columbia University leadership made a series of concessions to the Trump administration following an extraordinary letter that listed 9 demands expected of the university if it didn't want to lose its federal funding of $400 million. The university announced it was expelling, suspending, and revoking the degrees of 22 students following last year's Hamilton Hall protest, fulfilling one of 9 demands issued in a letter from the Trump administration to Columbia. Now, this is a guy who claims to stand for freedom of speech and protect freedom of speech. But here he is threatening universities if they allow that to happen. And they allow free protests that he calls illegal to happen. And this is preparing for what is planned down the line, probably not very far down the line, to bring in this chill to silence protest, knowing the scale of protest that will ensue when what is planned down the line becomes a reality. And the Trump mouthpiece, Caroline Leavitt, confirmed that the peacemaker president was on board with Israel and its latest bombing that ended the ceasefire. And why wouldn't he be when he has been supporting the mass murder up to this point? So this is Caroline Leavitt saying Trump's behind him.
The Trump administration and the White House were consulted by the Israelis on their attacks in Gaza tonight. And as President Trump has made it clear, Hamas the Houthis, Iran, all those who seek to terrorize not just Israel, but also the United States of America, will see a price to pay. All hell will break loose. And all of the terrorists in the Middle East, again, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iranian-backed terror proxies in Iran themselves should take President Trump very seriously when he says he is not afraid to stand for law-abiding people.
Amazing. You bomb people because they're terrorists while ignoring the terrorism inflicted on the overwhelmingly innocent in Gaza by the Israeli government and military. But it's not stopped there. Why did Trump order airstrikes against rebels in Yemen? Yes, the peacemaker president is sending the boys in multiple times, and he's only been there 5 minutes in the second term. The United States launched a wave of airstrikes against Iran-backed rebels in Yemen as US President Donald Trump warned Tehran. Again, the warnings for Iran are getting louder and louder, will be held fully accountable for their actions, he said, meaning Iran. The Houthi-run health ministry said the strikes killed at least 31 people, including women and children, and injured more than 100. The Houthi rebels started attacking military and commercial ships on one of the world's busiest shipping corridors shortly after the war in Gaza began between Hamas and Israel in October 2023. And the Houthis said they were targeting vessels on the Red Sea with links to Israel or its allies, the US and the UK, in solidarity with Palestinians. And the result has been this bombing by Trump and the US of targets in Yemen. But Trump was telling a very different story before he got elected, because he was asked why Democrats, and indeed many Republicans, supported overseas wars. And Trump, ironically, gave Yemen as an example where you negotiate, you do the deal, rather than blow the shit out of them.
I think it's just a failed mentality. It's crazy. You can solve problems over a telephone. Instead, they start dropping bombs. I see recently they're dropping bombs all over Yemen. You don't have to do that. You can talk in such a way where they respect you and they listen to you. Viktor Orban of Hungary, you know, the leader, they call him a strong man. Who cares if he's a strong man or not a strong man? He's a very powerful guy. He said the problem the world has is that Donald Trump is no longer president. When he was president, China didn't play around, Russia didn't play around, nobody played around, and we had no problems. Today, the whole world is on fire.
And all he's doing is telling people what they want to hear. This is what politicians do. Tell them what they want to hear so they vote for you, and then do what you planned all along. And it's a head shaker that Trump is so obviously owned by Israel, going way, way back. And yet the so-called alternative media, actually the MAGA media, some of them anyway now, claim not to have known that he would be so pro-Israel when he came to office. It's a head shaker. And how appropriate, with all this happening, that this week saw the 22nd anniversary of the murder by Israeli troops of the American activist Rachel Corrie. Rachel Corrie who puts to shame everything that Donald Trump stands for. Here's a little tribute to her.
I'm here because I care. I'm here because children everywhere are suffering, and because 40,000 people die each day from hunger. I'm here because those people are mostly children.
My name is Rachel Corey. I'm from the United States. I'm from Olympia, Washington.
Rachel Corey became internationally famous when she was crushed to death by a bulldozer in Gaza last year.
We are international human rights observers from the United Kingdom, from England, from Scotland, from Italy, and from the United States of America.
I've been here for about a month and a half now, and this is definitely the most difficult situation that I've ever seen. In the time that I've been here, children have been shot and killed. On the 30th of January, the Israeli military bulldozed the two largest water wells, destroying over half of Rafah's water supply. Every few days, if not every day, houses are demolished here.
When the bulldozer crushed her, Rachel became the first American martyr to die in Palestine.
Rachel Corrie, a magnificent human being who died doing what she believed to be right. Now, the thing about this whole MAGA is we've regressed to the point where the left-right puppet show is back. And the understanding that we live in a one-party state, two wings on the same bird, as they used to say, has been lost. And it's extraordinary as I observe what's going on to see how the woke left and the MAGA right are absolute mirrors of each other. You had the woke left who wanted to impose their will upon the rest of the population with laws about pronouns and all the whole woke agenda, that you must comply with it, even though you don't agree with it. And now we're having the MAGA right that are doing the same, seeking to impose their will on everyone else and not questioning anything about what Trump and Elon Musk are doing. What they're doing in terms of destroying the whole basis of a democratic society by imposing their will from a central point, not least through executive orders. And now they are seeking to demonize judges that say, hold on, what you're doing is illegal, you can't do this. Because where this is going is complete and utter tyranny. They are looking to create and absorb so much power to the president and those around him that, well, first of all, the check and balance called Congress on presidential power, that's been neutered already, sitting there with his head down. And now they're targeting the judges that say what they're doing is illegal. They are threatening to impeach them. And again, as with the anti-Semitism whole approach, they're seeking to create a situation of intimidation where judges can see the consequences of going against the regime and thus make sure that their decisions suit the regime. This is how tyrannies operate, and it's unfolding in front of our eyes. Well, the MAGA cheer. And on the subject of this one-party state, I came across this story this week. Has the 1988 Economist magazine prediction come true? This is the Economist magazine with highly significant connections to the House of Rothschild. And the Economist magazine published a January 1988 article entitled "Get Ready for the Phoenix." And 30 years later, that Phoenix, question mark, has risen. Has it? The magazine cover shows a phoenix bird rising from the ashes of a burning American money. And at the center of the page, a bronze coin engraved with the words 10 Phoenix 2018 shines bright. The Economist magazine cover was for January the 9th, 1988. And what the article is calling for is a single unified currency to ease international financial woes, it says. And the article's author, anonymous behind an editorial team, Alias, envisages a modern world connected like never before. Instead of the yen or peso or rupee, the Phoenix coin would dominate. There would be no need for expensive international currency transfers or cumbersome money wires. Everyone would be using the same coin. And the article here, which is retrospectively looking at the Economist article of 1988, is saying, well, isn't that cryptocurrency as it's unfolding? Well, it's certainly the digital currency called the central bank digital currency, the CBDCs, which are now coming in Europe and Russia and other countries. And the Trump crypto policy is part of this whole movement towards a digital, global, in the end, currency, which is programmable and can dictate what you can use it for. And another on the one-party state subject is this furore this week about this Democrat leader, Chuck Schumer, caving and refusing to block a Republican plan to bring in a bill to avert a government shutdown. And Schumer has had so much stick for doing this. And people have been questioning, why did he cave? Because the majority necessary to stop it, the Republicans didn't have. Certain Democrats had to support it for it to go through, and Schumer and some others did so. And it's like, why did he do it? But Chuck Schumer is owned by Israel. Donald Trump and the Republicans are owned by Israel. And if Israel wants something, then Schumer and Trump suddenly become as one. And that will be the reason why he caved, not any other reason, nonsensical reason that he gave. And until people start to realize that Democrat and Republican are a one-party state, and all the kind of rhetoric between them is just theater. Same with the other parties in other countries that have any chance of forming a government. Until people realize that, they'll go on being scammed and played by the two-party illusion. So that's the public section of the Dot Connected this week. And you can see the rest, and I'm going to go into a lot of different subjects this week, at 5 o'clock or after 5 o'clock on Thursday evenings, UK time, on iconic.com. See you later.